Once we broke the link between dollars and gold, this removed all the constraints on how much credit could be created. Total credit first went through $1 trillion in 1964. Over the next 43 years, it expanded from 1 trillion to 50 trillion. So we had a 50-fold expansion in credit in the United States in 43 years. And this explosion of credit, it created our world. It made us all much more prosperous than we would have been otherwise. The ratio of debt to GDP went from 150% all the way up to 370%. So it's easy to understand how rapid credit growth drives economic growth. But the day always comes, as the Austrians remind us, when credit can't expand any further. And as von Mises put it, that's when the depression begins. And that's what started to occur in 2008. That's what would have occurred. We would have had a new depression had the government not intervened and the government sector then started borrowing and spending trillions of dollars every year. And that kept the total credit expanding still. So now we have a total credit base of $59 trillion. Between 1950 and 2008, every time total credit adjusted for inflation grew by less than 2%, we had a recession. And the recession didn't end until we had another very big surge of credit expansion. So since 2008, credit hasn't been expanding by 2%. The question is, will credit ever begin to grow again enough to drive the economy? Because we now have such a large base, $59 trillion. If we assume that the inflation rate is 2%, then we need total credit to grow by 4% so that total credit adjusted for inflation will hit this 2% recession threshold, as I call it. So if you look at all the big sectors of the economy, there are just a few of them. You can see that none of them are going to expand their debt enough to make total credit grow by 2%. So essentially, this economic system we have now, I like to sometimes call it creditism. Creditism needs credit growth to survive. And without the credit growth, it's going to collapse, just as the Austrian economist taught. After a 5-decade, 60-fold expansion of credit, if this collapses now, we're going to have an equally protracted crash. And it's not going to be a matter of taking a pain for a couple of years. It's going to be a matter of such horrific consequences. It would, I think, be a replay of the 1930s and the 1940s, but this time with nuclear weapons involved.